caused them to buy those articles from the Chinese? It starts with replacing the tax code.
Governor Romney, was it a mistake for Governor Schwarzenegger to hire the firm in China to build portions of that bridge?
Well, that's a long answer to that, because what China's doing is not playing fairly by the rules that exist in the WTO and in the world. China is on almost every dimension cheating. We got to recognize that. It is good for America. It is good for America to have free trade. It is good for us to be able to send our goods and services around the world.
So a good decision to build the bridge over there?
That is normally a good thing, but China is playing by different rules. One, they're stealing intellectual property. Number two, they're hacking into our computer systems, both government and corporate, and they're stealing by virtue of that as well from us. And finally, they're manipulating their currency, and by doing so, holding down the price of Chinese goods and making sure their products are artificially low priced. It's predatory pricing. It's killing jobs in America. If I'm president of the United States, I'm making it very clear. I love free trade. I want to open markets to free trade, but I will crack down on cheaters like China. They simply cannot continue to steal our jobs.
How do you crack down? How do you crack down, Governor? Are you talking about new tariffs? How are you cracking down?
I'm sorry, pardon?
How would you crack down on China?
Well, number one, I would do something this president should have done a long time ago, which is to label China a currency manipulator. And then I'd bring an action at the WTO level, charging them with being a currency manipulator. Number three, where they have stolen intellectual property, where they have hacked into computers, and where their artificial pricing is causing their goods to have predatory levels of pricing, I would apply, if necessary, tariffs to make sure that they understand we're willing to play in a level playing field. We have to have free trade. That's essential for the functioning of a strong economy. But we cannot allow one nation to continue to flaunt the rules and kill our jobs by allowing them to continue as they have.
Speaker, in addition to that, so many companies, multinational companies, want to try to get a foothold in China and sell to the 1.5 billion people there. They can only do joint ventures. They are not getting a fair shake in terms of selling to that 1.5 billion person population. How would you move the needle?
Well, there are two things here, and let me say in advance that I would yield in part to Governor Huntsman because he speaks fluent Chinese, he's worked in China, and he's been the ambassador, and I'd be curious to get his reaction. But there are two different parts here. The problem with building the bridge is simple. What is it about American regulations, American taxation, American labor cost and attitudes that makes it cheaper to go to China than to go to the United States? Now, let's see, first of all, you've got to decide how are we going to be more competitive and how are we going to be the lowest cost? And there's a new Boston consulting study that says by 2015, South Carolina and Alabama will be cheaper than the Chinese coastal provinces to manufacture in. Second, in terms of dealing with China strategically, I think we're going to have to find ways to dramatically raise the pain level for the Chinese cheating, both in the hacking side, but also on the stealing and intellectual property side. And I don't think anybody today has a particularly good strategy for doing that.
Time, 30 seconds. John Huntsman, you are the ambassador to China. 30 seconds to respond.
30 seconds, for heaven's sake. Let me just say that we've had a 40-year relationship with China. It's a troublesome and problematic relationship, very, very complicated. But the bottom line is, I mean, you can give applause lines and you can kind of pander here and there. You start a trade war if you start slapping tariffs randomly on Chinese products based upon currency manipulation. That's not a good idea. But longer term, we're just going to have to keep doing business the way we've always done. You sit down, you find solutions to the problems, and you move forward. It isn't easy. It isn't glamorous. It's grinding it out the way we've done it for 40 years. And for 40 more years, we're going to have to do it the same way.
Are you saying Governor Romney's pandering?
I'm saying that you can throw out applause lines and you can say that you're going to slap on tariffs. You know, that doesn't work.
But you're suggesting it. He's standing right here. Would you say that he's pandering on this issue?
I've said it before. I think that that policy is one of simply pandering, just throwing a tariff on for the sake of an artificially valued currency, which is, in fact, the case. But here's what they do in response. They say, you have an artificially valued currency, too, with those quantitative easing programs. You, too, are manipulating your currency. And we're going to slap something on your products. And before long, you have a trade war. But let me tell you longer term.
Governor Romney, are you pandering?
Look, I've been in business all my life, 25 years. I consulted to businesses around the world. I've been in business where we competed around the world. I understand free trade. I like free trade. I know that America can compete with anywhere in the world. Newt is right about our capacity to manufacture and compete heads-on versus the Chinese. But I've also seen predatory pricing. I've seen people price their goods at an artificial level for an extended period of time such that they can drive other people out of business. And then when the other people are out of business, they can raise their prices. That's what China's doing by holding down the value of their currency. Let the currencies float. If the U.S. currency, for instance, is being inflated, let it float. Let us float. Let us have a market mechanism determine the value of our respective currencies, as opposed to the Chinese government continuing to put at advantage their producers. This is no longer a time for us to sit back and say we're going to let them steal our jobs.
Congresswoman Bachmann, weigh in here. How do you open the markets in China for American companies?
Well, the Chinese have been bad actors. Recently, we found out that they dumped counterfeit computer chips here in the United States. We're using some of those counterfeit computer chips in the Pentagon in some of our weapons system. This has national security implications. We also found out that the Chinese just finished building 3,000 miles of underground tunnels where they are housing some nuclear weapons. There's some very real consequences to the United States overspending to such an extent that we're in hot to them over $1 trillion. We've sent so much interest money over to the Chinese to pay our debts off that we effectively built their aircraft carrier. And by 2015, we will be sending so much interest money over, we will be paying for the entire People's Liberation Army of China, the #1 employer of the world. What we need to do is stop enriching China with our money, and we do that by stop borrowing from them, by stop spending money that we don't have.
Mr. Cain, I want to go to you with this question. This does not lend itself to 999 or any other number.
Well,
okay?
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
This question does not lend itself to 999 or any other thing. This is our final word, okay? And it comes from our viewers. And it is all about restoring trust and faith in our markets and in our way of life. I'm going to be quoting Joanne Cornbleed. She emails us. She says, our stock market has turned into a casino with high-frequency computerized trading comprising 70% of all transactions, and hedge fund speculation resulting in volatile market swings before privatizing Social Security. How would you make the stock market safer for individual investors? And Mr. Cain, just simple. How do we restore faith in the markets for the little guy?
The first thing we do is restore faith in business by providing certainty so businesses can grow. A lot of the volatility is being driven by uncertainty. Businesses are uncertain about what the healthcare rules are going to be. They don't know what the tax rules are going to be. All of the uncertainty has this economy stagnated. So the way you restore that, grow this economy. That's job one. Many of the things we talked about up here today starts with growing the economy. And that's why we've got to use a bold plan, I won't mention it, in order to grow the economy.
When the economy was growing great, sir, there was no trust. You know, when the economy was going great, people were getting ripped off, and there was insider trading. When the economy was going great, people were getting hurt in the stock market. Forget the economy. Jim, talk about the way the market's regulated.
Jim, I feel your pain. Look, here's what I'm saying.
How about the 90 million people who got money in the markets?
No, Jim, you got to provide certainty in this environment so businesses will grow. They have been in a mode of survive. They need to be in a mode of growth. That's what we got to do first. And I agree with some of the others who said we got to repeal Dodd-Frank. There's 3 big things wrong with Dodd-Frank, which is why it needs to be a top priority to repeal. Number one, it doesn't provide oversight for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and we all agreed that that was the catalyst for the meltdown in 2008. The 2 other biggest problems with Dodd-Frank, Dodd and Frank.
To you and Congressman Ron Paul, how do you restore faith in the public markets?
Well, we have the regulations in place, and we had the regulations in place well before the meltdowns occurred. We have a culture in Washington, D.C., where these corporate lobbyists have these cozy relationships with the people that they're regulating. And we have to have leadership in this country that not only recognizes that, but demands that those individuals who are working for us are in those agencies, whether it's in the stock market or whether it's at Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. And when there are individuals who are breaking the laws, who are pushing the bounds, that there are clear efforts that are made to take those people either out of those jobs or prosecute them for criminality. One of the two. That has to happen. And you can pass legislation, like you said, until the world looks level. But you've got to have men and women who are committed to the laws of this country and a president that will push his administration to make sure that they're done.
Congressman Paul, Governor Perry was just talking about the culture of Washington. His critics in the state of Texas, your congressman from Texas, say crony capitalism is what he's practiced as governor. Are they right?
I haven't analyzed it well enough to call him a crony or not, so no. I don't know the details of that, but there is a lot of crony capitalism going on in this country, and that has to be distinguished from real capitalism, because that's this occupation stuff on Wall Street. If you're going after crony capitalism, I'm all for it. And those are the people who benefit from contracts from government, benefits from the Federal Reserve, benefits from all the bailouts. They don't deserve compassion. They deserve taxation, or they deserve to have all their benefits removed. But crony capitalism isn't when somebody makes money and they produce a product. That is very important. We have to distinguish the two. And unfortunately, I think some people mix that. But this, to me, is so vital that we recognize what capitalism is versus crony capitalism. And believe me, when you have an inflationary environment and all this speculation and all the bailouts due to the monetary system, believe me, you get a majority of crony capitalism, and that's why we're facing this crisis today.
We want to thank all of you tonight. That is all the time we have for CNBC's Republican presidential debate. We thank all of the candidates for being here tonight and spending the time and putting their plans forward. We hope you now have a better understanding of where each of them stand on the economies, jobs, and your money.
We'd also like to thank our partners, the Michigan Republican Party, and all of the Grizzlies of Oakland University.
Our debate may be over, but our coverage continues. Complete post-debate reaction and analysis right after this short break. Stay with us on CNBC.
Live from Oakland University in Rochester, Michigan, the site of Your Money, Your Vote CNBC Republican presidential debate. Finishing just minutes ago. Good evening, everyone. I'm Carl Quintanilla. Welcome to CNBC's post-debate debrief. I'm here at Oakland University, where the 8 Republican candidates for president spent 90 minutes debating the issues of the economy, jobs, taxes, corporate reform, markets, and Europe. Although that might not be the headline tomorrow, we'll dissect the debate and how it affects your money and your vote. Take a look at who we have coming up. Our CNBC team in high gear to bring you every angle and reaction to the last 90 minutes of spirited debate. I'm joined by my CNBC colleagues, Chief Washington Correspondent John Harwood, Maria Bartiromo, the host of Closing Bell, Jim Cramer, the host of Mad Money, Senior Economics reporter Steve Leisman, Rick Santelli, who of course covers the bond market, Washington reporter Eamon Javers, Larry Kudlow, the host of the Kudlow Report, and CNBC Senior Correspondent Scott Cohn. Also, on the bottom of your screen, you'll see that Asian markets are, in fact, dropping sharply after today's big drop on the Dow. The Dow down, of course, nearly 400 points today. We're covering all of that. But first, the debate finished just moments ago. And in case you missed any of it, let's take a look at some of the highlights you might have missed.
Italy is on the brink of financial disaster. As president, what will you do to make sure their problems do not take down the U.S. financial system?
Europe is able to